This is a series about the most talented filmmakers on the internet making their first films for the big screen in just 100 days.
You guys have had a very tight timeline, I would say, to edit your films. How's post-production been for you guys?
It was a roller coaster. It was everything. It was like the whole entire human experience, man.
Beautiful, man.
The title of the film is They Were Art Thieves. It's set in the 1980s about two brothers who are kind of soul versus survival. We're gonna be rich! One of the things I really wish I did was hire an editor. Because when there's such a mountain of a project in front of you and you only have a very, very short amount of time, if you start fading and burning out a little bit, the inertia against you only grows because you're not only are you feeling tired, but you're like the project isn't moving. But there were some really rough moments. There was a time when I did try to outsource this 7-minute scene. It was a tough scene because it was technically above what I'm used to, and I was like, this is not the time for me to learn how to do something new and also show it to a whole bunch of people. And so I outsourced it, and then the night before it was due, the guy sends me a text. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna send it to you tomorrow, almost done. The next morning, instead of a cut, I get an apology text message saying he can't do it.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I got excited when he said that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, at that point, things were starting to slow down. True. Things were starting to slow down, and I was like getting more to the administrative side of editing where I'm just juggling revision notes and stuff. And then I just locked in for the next 48 hours and made that scene.
Dude, just all day working.
Tim helped a lot because he would, it sounds simple, but he did the house chores. He made breakfast.
No, that's so real. That's so real.
It's like when you can just be sitting there editing and all of a sudden there's a breakfast sitting there, and then the food gets taken away and then there's a clean kitchen downstairs.
That's badass, bro.
It really is.
Being a housemaid is so badass.
Post-production wasn't bad.
No.
We made a really weird, surreal film. This man creates a machine to try and build this perfect existence through escapism. But soon enough, he realizes that through the creation of this machine, it fails because you can't have a perfect existence without others. When we got all the film back, we lost a whole scene in the film.
Wow.
It was kind of a puzzle. Right after the main scene, we're all in the train. Yeah. We get off the train. We're supposed to be walking in the train station, and there's this whole dialogue between the two characters in the train station. It's a beautiful shot. We get the rollback, and it's just black. Mm-hmm. We almost needed to remake the story a little bit in post.
We didn't lose anything super important, but there's definitely some things that we had to move around, work around, do some VFX for. We wanted to be as much as we could hands off with VFX, but in the end we still had to end up doing it anyway. So
a little bit.
Yeah.
How about you, Sonya?
My film is called How Long Until Now. It's a non-linear story about a girl who struggles to stay present and how she constantly jumps between reality and what's happening in her mind. It was also a very tight schedule because we planned to finish post-production before I come to the US. So we wrapped and I started editing the next day. I did a rough cut for about 3 days by myself. And I had to make decisions very fast because I was working with the crew, I was working with the editor. I couldn't take weeks. So we locked picture in 3 days in the studio. I really liked working with the editor because he brought some of his ideas. For example, that shot in the window in the pool. He actually proposed to flip the picture of her floating in the water, and that made it a lot more interesting and dreamy, so I loved that. It was a little bit tough for me sometimes because maybe my ego sometimes gets in the way where you're oh, this is my film. Yeah. I have to make all the decisions. And I think it was really good learning decision to let other people in and invite them to collaborate in your work.
Yeah. Talk me through post-production. How have you approached it?
Yeah, 2 weeks was not enough. I finished editing last night. Well, I guess finished. I ran out of time. Return to Sender is it's set in this post-apocalyptic Earth, and it's about these two couriers getting sent down to the abandoned surface of Earth to retrieve a package and return it to the spaceship that they live on, and they end up getting trapped on the surface, and the whole film kind of revolves around how their relationship evolves. Getting to work with my editor, he's more from the traditional space. which thank God, because there were so many times that my internet content creator mind hijacked the film, and that's what made it special, and that's what I wanted my touch and my flair to come from, was the internet space. But there's some times where Levi's like, this is way too quick. Like, you need to chill out. And I was like, okay, like, you know, you want me to, like, the shot can be longer? That's great. You know, I'd love to spend more time on the shot. So it was really cool to have him always checking me. The editing part, I really did want to spend a lot of time of, and that's where the majority of the 2 weeks went to. So me and him actually almost essentially edited 2 different versions of the film, where he would take a scene and edit it and then send it to me, and then we do vice versa, with each scene.
Oh, wow.
And then that gave us an opportunity to learn the footage and learn the ins and outs of each other's cuts. And then we'd come together and have these calls where we kind of battled it out over like every single tiny little detail, and that was super, super fun. That was really special.
Harold, post-production.
Oh, yeah.
You were in the office all night last night. I think you slept there.
So I didn't work with an editor. So I didn't leave my house, basically. Just in the room, in the cellar, just editing. So my film's called Zulian Pretzel. It kicks off when this police officer finds these 2 homeless brothers selling out of an illegal food stand, and he recruits them to his wife's failing restaurant. The hardest thing for me when I was editing this film is I have to fight the writer in me. Because the writer says, well, look, Harold, listen, this scene is a page and a half. Why is it 3 minutes? Does it need to be 3 minutes? Mm-hmm. What does it achieve in 3 minutes? But then the director in me sees it and says, well, buddy, we're not attached to any of these people. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then I got to go back through it again. I think that's the hardest thing in the editing room, especially when you're by yourself.
For you guys, been working some long hours.
Oh God, post-production was just such a disaster at first. We went through a lot of post-production people, and it's not necessarily that they were bad or even wrong for the project, but we realized it takes the same amount of energy to communicate with someone to fix it than it is to just fix it ourselves. We were going to run out of time before we got it right. Yeah. So we eventually just let go of all the editors, and it was Ethan and our friend Justin Shanny, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day, editing the whole thing.
Wow. Could you guys just give me like one sentence on your film, what it's about?
We'll describe it as, at night, 2 people are married. By day, they're strangers.
That's all we get?
That's all you get.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. We had to ADR a scene because I think we were just moving so fast that one of our ideas was to put a lav mic attached to the ceiling, but pointed towards not the characters.
We planned our finances around the advanced. I just don't understand what is your plan here?
Well, I thought we could rearrange our income streams a little bit.
And also the struggle with that specific scene was there's no score in it at all, and it's supposed to be a moment where you're listening to them. We were going back and forth with our sound mixer and trying to like make something work, but it just wasn't working. So luckily, like, Caroline is so good at ADRing that it, like, you can't even tell.
I mean, she just nailed it.
Yeah.
The ADR it doesn't sound like ADR to me. I mean, it sounds like her.
We planned our finances around the advance. I just don't understand what is your plan here?
Well, I thought we could rearrange our income streams a little bit.
I sound like ADR.
No. It sounds good, bro.
Monique, how about you?
I did the editing, coloring, and sound design for my film. So I had 1 week to edit the entire film, which was 9.5 hours of footage down to 20 minutes.
Oh my God.
I made a 20-minute long psychological mystery film, and it's about a girl on her birthday receiving a gift from the universe. And it just gives her an opportunity to see life in a new light and show her things that you would not normally see or experience in your actual lifetime. I think the sound design was the most important because not a single sound in the film is real. I had to use just fake sound effects for every footstep, every door opening. I just didn't have a sound guy on set, so I was hoping that our tiny mic would work, but because it didn't, I just created it all.
So there was no actual sound recorded on set that's in the film?
None.
Wow.
Not even when I'm speaking, and that's all recorded on a small mic I did at the house. Go to a place I've never been.
Like Monique's, we didn't have audio either.
The majority of the film. Yeah. Only for dialogue.
Only dialogue. Because the camera's too loud to even get dialogue for anything else. So Jonah made all the audio for everything, a lot of Foley.
Jonah, I know you obviously did the sound design. You also you were the composer as well.
Partially. I worked hand in hand with TJ Dumser. His stage name is Six Missing. He's just such an amazing person. He also helped us mix and just make everything sound phenomenal, get it into a 5-1 mix. He invited me over to his studio at his house, and we just sat down one day, and we're just bouncing ideas back and forth, taking some like samples that he had, and I was like, oh, like it would be cool to add like this LFO synth here, like. But yeah, I haven't really done much sound design, like working with SFX and like actually recording Foley to like try to get the sound I'm looking for. Like Zach is editing to the right of me, and then he'd send me a cut of what he's got so far, and I'd send him what I have, so he could listen to it with audio, and it's just like we'd kind of just build it out like block by block. It was definitely a fun experience.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
What was the hardest sound to Foley?
It wasn't physically challenging. It was like just a mental game. It was the last sound I recorded. There's a make-out scene. And obviously we didn't record that on set, so I was making out with my hand.
Your hand.
Yeah.
Sure.
It took so awkward.
I think it took like a week for
a week
because he just wouldn't do it.
I just didn't want to record it.
He's like, I
dude.
don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
I also don't want to tell people about it because I don't want them to think about me kissing my hand like when they're watching the film for the first time.
Well, we're definitely leaving this in now.
Post-production has been super interesting. Such a big difference from the things I normally make, and to be honest, it's been a lot easier. A group of college kids are playing Dungeons & Dragons in a basement, and one of the dude's girlfriends gets pissed because she wants to go to a frat party. She basically steals this ending game piece, and then the group of D&D kids go on an adventure through their college town to get the piece back from the frat. During that edit, we ended up cutting another minute from the film, and that was like kind of a last-minute decision. We showed someone the film, and he's like, I don't think you need that scene.
Happy International Women's Day. And if any of you even think about showing a woman the slightest amount of disrespect, just know that I will be there, and you have to answer to me.
The joke, it works in theory. When we showed it to Dylan, he was like, this is way better if you just use an audio cut apex here and then continue on.
Yeah, just move forward with the story.
We defended that moment in that with Dylan. We were like, no, I don't know, maybe not. Then we cut it and we were like, it's so much better.
Happy International Women's Day.
And I think that's like one of my favorite transitions of the movie. The audio kicks in and it totally does exactly what we wanted it to do.
Works. We spent actually a lot of time setting up those shots and doing it, so it feels bad to do, but it is better, 100%.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah. Color grading. I'm wondering if you guys can speak to that, how you do that in your process.
So it was very, very different because we shot on film. There's no S-Log 3 on film. Like the colors are baked into the film, and that is what you get. It was really just like making sure the exposure was good. The thing is about film too, it's like you have a lot of dynamic range. So if something is super overexposed, you can bring it back. Whereas like with digital, if it's super overexposed, you don't have a lot of room for adjustments. That was kind of a blessing because a lot of stuff was dark because it's just like a dark film. Yeah. So we're able to play around with it a lot more than you would with any other type of format.
Do you have a favorite sequence?
I really wanted this big-ass spaceship. This is the only shot in the film that is purely just CGI. At first, I'm like, oh, I can do this practically, like make a model or whatever. My dad is also really passionate about models, and me and him kind of set out to design the spaceship, and we were trying to get this practical model to work. We had spent hours, like taking different pieces from other models and piecing them together and cutting wood and trying to construct this realistic looking spaceship and adding texture to it and painting it out, but it just was not translating in video. So after like spending a week on it, really my dad, he really took to the job. I felt really bad, but I was like, I think we're just gonna have to do this digitally. He's IT, he's worked with computers his whole life, and so I was like, yo, like you should learn how to do Blender really quick. And for anybody who like is familiar with Blender, it's like that is not an easy thing to do. He like jumped on it. He would learn different elements and send me different models for reference, and I would give him just direction, but he really ran with it. That shot is super, super special to me because we spent a lot of time just designing the ship, and him learning Blender and him teaching me what he's learned so I can understand like what is possible and what is achievable. I have so much fun just compositing little details, like little helicopters and planes and dust and whatnot. So that shot's really special to me.
How about you guys?
I think the bar scene, Tommy's his dream, and he realizes, like, I can't have it. And then Jack steps in, and it's a long scene. It's one of the 8-page scenes.
That was a very difficult scene to edit, I will say.
Why was it hard to edit?
It was hard to edit because we didn't have the resources or the time to get multi-coverage for a 7.5-minute scene. There's this one clip where it's like my line was golden sunrise.
Oh my gosh.
And like for 4 or 5 times, I was just like, golden rice.
Golden rice. He goes, this is your golden rice.
This is your golden rice. This is your golden rice. And so when you go into the scene again, not knowing the lines or rehearsals, and the performances evolve, and you have like 4 or 5 different angles, and each angle has 3 to 4 different performances. Now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the timeline, and there's like 25 clips that I can pick from. So how do I preserve continuity? How do I preserve flow of emotion and make sure that the edit is like working? And so the first day, 39 seconds took me 7 hours. And it felt like a 5D chess game. And I just felt so drained after that. And the end, you watch the 39 seconds and it flows like a normal convo, and which is at the same time amazing because I'm like, wow, okay, that works. It's a conversation. But then I'm like, what did I just spend 7 hours on?
Monique, how about you?
There's a lot that I like, but I would say the underwater scene was my favorite because I was just inside of a fish tank in my bathroom.
Whoa.
That was one of the big question marks that my crew had. That was like, that's not going to work. And I was like, trust me, I've done this before, which is so sus. It's weird, but I was like, you just have to trust me.
I'm getting in a fish tank.
The tank was actually cracked in that scene, by the way, like right behind my head.
Cracked?
Yeah, my DP tried to push the tank when I was inside of it with the water filled, and it like cracked in the back, and everyone was like, don't move. Because we didn't get the shot yet, so everyone was like, let's just don't touch anything. And we just did the shot like 3 more times, and we got it.
Holy
and it worked.
moly.
That was fun. And it also was just beautiful. Like it's my favorite shot, I think, hands down.
How about you guys? Favorite shot?
You know what shot I really like? On the beach, like the first beach scene where it like fades in. When the film is being scanned, like the start of the roll has like all these like artifacts, and the way it just like bleeds in is just like it's
like
amazing. Like there's no way we would have planned for that. It just happened. And
From shooting on film.
Yes, and it's very like fitting for the scene and like when it's actually happening.
Yeah. Did you have a particularly hard scene or moment during the post process?
We didn't have time on the set to execute the ending that I planned. So when we got to the editing, we made a new ending using just what we had.
Oh, wow.
It was scary because the idea of the new end was not fully mine. So I was scared that if we go with this new idea, does that mean that I failed as a filmmaker?
Wow.
Those weeks while we were editing, that was such an emotional roller coaster where one day I was waking up in a really good mood, and then by the end of the day I was like, this is so stupid. I made such a stupid thing. Maybe I'm not a filmmaker. Maybe I'm not a director.
Whoa.
So it was really hard for me to make that decision.
What was maybe the most challenging sequence to edit, or just biggest challenge in general in post-production?
Caroline wrote a line about like a old HR woman, and that was my grandma.
Good morning, Martha. How's my favorite HR pal doing?
How's good night?
That's why I love you.
Yeah, we wanted to cut it, but the problem with cutting it is that the boss keeps mentioning her. So it's like, this can't be a random thing.
But I'm happy my grandma's in it. But
Hardest part of post-production, it was probably seeing the immense amount of effort everybody had put in during production, and then suddenly having all that footage and being like, oh fuck, like everybody has worked so hard on this, and now it's up to me and my team to do justice to all the work they had put into it. It was, again, like same with pre-production. I had calls with Phil.
I was gonna say that was the moment when I started calling Nick. Because there's moments when it's like, this is the best thing in the world, and then like 2 hours later, this is the worst thing in the world. Because in the edit, it's like before it's polished, or even before that, it's like Nick is saying, it's difficult to see it come together when it's very, very rough, and that could be daunting. Sometimes I'm like, if only I just like wait for the next hour and I just keep doing this until the next day and the next day. In a month, everything will work out, you know. And it's like you just have to like keep like giving yourself these little like motivation bits, because it's very, very challenging sometimes mentally.
That was my mantra from pre to post production. It's just, I was like, I woke up and I was like, I'm just gonna survive today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just gonna survive, you know. And
this hour.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling now at the end of this? It's been 4 months. You've done things that were completely new for you. What's your headspace like?
I'm just glad we pulled it off. My biggest motto that I've learned from this whole thing is nobody knows what they're doing. There are no rules to any of this. You don't have to do it a certain way. Sure, you got to know how to use a camera and like technical stuff, but like just make something. You don't have to approach it this way or that way. Just approach it your way. Approach it the way that you want to. Just make something you're proud of.
Love it. Monique?
I would say it is like showing up for yourself and believing yourself when you're going through this type of project is so important, because you have a lot of times where you doubt yourself and your craft and like your ability, and you have to keep telling yourself, I can do it, and I believe in this idea and this like world that I'm creating that doesn't even exist. Like, I believe in it. I think that that's so important, and that's my biggest takeaway for sure.
Sonya, how about you?
I'm still in the process, but I'm learning how to trust myself more. I was very insecure about going to this project because I felt like, oh, people are going to have like great dialogues and storylines, and mine's just messy and doesn't make any sense. But I think in the process, I started to trust myself that maybe I also have something valuable to bring. Maybe cinema doesn't have to be understood, but it has to be felt. And that's what I've been trying to remind myself during the process, that even if people don't resonate or if they don't understand what happens in the film, because maybe it is a little bit confusing, but if I'm able to make them feel something, then I did my job well. Not trying to conform to what I think other people expect from me. Just doing my own thing and just believing in that.
Connecting with the people, I mean, that was huge to me. Even before I got introduced to film, I was a big introvert. I had a lot of social anxiety, and you know, as I've gotten more wrapped up in the internet and film and all that, you know, that stuff has only gotten kind of worse with the way my body reacts to consuming disgusting amounts of online stuff. I had gotten really used to working on my own and making videos alone. But man, when I stepped on that set, the actors and the crew were there, and my DP and everybody just came together. It was like there's like no better feeling than just being surrounded by a group of people who all love film, all love storytelling. And that was so beautiful to me. You know, in the upcoming years, it's gonna get more popular to be a one-man solo band and be a content creator and work alone, or try to cut corners with AI or who knows. But I mean, it's like this human connection it's so important, and I learned so much from every single person who I got to connect with on this project. So it was just work with people, you know, as many as you can.